We used it to justify staying in jobs that were killing our spirits, in relationships that were eroding our souls, in cities that made us lonely, and in habits that made us sick. We told ourselves, I can handle this, and we could. That was the problem. We could handle it, so we did for years. We also accept because of what I call the sunk cost fallacy of the heart. The sunk cost fallacy is an economic term for when you continue investing in something, a project, a stock, a car, simply because you've already invested so much, even though it's clear it will never pay off. We do this with our lives. You've been with your partner for 7 years. You've built a home, shared a dog, merged your furniture. You can't leave now because that would mean the last 7 years were a waste. You've been at your company for 15 years. You have a parking spot with your name on it. You can't quit because that would mean throwing away your pension, your reputation, your identity. So you stay. You tolerate, you accept. You tell yourself it's not that bad, and in that lie, you find a terrible, suffocating comfort. Part 2, the cracks in the foundation. So what changes? What turns the water from warm to scalding? What makes you suddenly look at the pair of expensive, painful shoes and see them for what they truly are? Garbage. There's no single catalyst. It is different for everyone. But there are common earthquakes. For some, it is a single, undeniable event. The last straw is the boss who, after 10 years of passive-aggressive emails, finally screams at you in a meeting in front of everyone. It's the friend who forgets your birthday for the 7th time, but remembers to post a tribute to their coworker's cousin's cat. It's the partner who, when you are at your most vulnerable, looks at their phone instead of at you. In that moment, the veil rips. You can't unsee it. The pattern that was once fuzzy becomes high definition, and you think, oh, this is who they really are. And once you see that, you cannot go back. Tolerance requires willful blindness. The last straw is the surgery that removes the cataracts. For others, the change is slower, more internal. It is not an explosion, but an erosion. You wake up one day and realize you are exhausted. Not I need a nap or exhausted, but existentially exhausted. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. You realize that maintaining the acceptance, the smiling, the nodding, the it's fine, the rationalizing, the justifying, the minimizing has become a full-time job. And you are bankrupt. You have no energy left for yourself because you have spent it all on managing other people's dysfunction. That exhaustion is not a weakness. It is a warning light. It is your nervous system finally saying, I cannot process this level of cortisol anymore. Something has to give. And then there is the most beautiful catalyst of all. Self-respect. Self-respect does not arrive with a marching band. It is quiet. It is the opposite of ego. Self-respect is the accumulated evidence of your own survival. It's looking back at everything you've been through. The late nights, the tears, the small victories, the times you helped a stranger, the time you got through a panic attack, the time you cooked a meal when you didn't want to live, and realizing I am worth more than this treatment. Self-respect is not about thinking you're better than others. It's about realizing you are no longer available for what is less than you deserve. It is a shift from external validation to internal truth. You stop asking, do they like me? And start asking, do I like who I am when I'm with them? You also stop tolerating because you've finally seen the future, and the future scares you more than the present. The pain of staying finally becomes greater than the pain of leaving. For years, you accepted the silent treatment from your sibling because the fear of being alone at Christmas was worse. But then you imagine 10 more Christmases of silence and a cold shudder runs through you. You realize that staying is not safety. It is a slow, prolonged death of your spirit. The fear of regret overtakes the fear of change. You think, if I am still here in 5 years, tolerating this same nonsense, I will hate myself more than I could ever hate them. And that self-hatred becomes the fuel. Part 3, the great unbecoming now. Here's where it gets tricky. The moment you stop tolerating what you once accepted is not a moment of peace. It is a war, because you are not just fighting the external situation, you are fighting yourself. You are fighting the ghost of who you used to be. The people around you will not celebrate your new boundary. In fact, they will despise them. Why? Because your dysfunction was part of their comfort. If you were the one who always said yes, the one who showed up late to your own life to fix their problem, the one who absorbed their anger so they didn't have to feel it, then your sudden no feels like an act of aggression. They will say you've changed. They will say you're selfish. They will say you're having a breakdown. They might even say, you used to be so nice. And what they mean is, you used to be so manageable. You will doubt yourself. This is inevitable. The morning after you set a boundary, you will wake up in a cold sweat. You will think, oh, was I too maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe I'm the problem. This is the addiction of codependency speaking. When you have spent years acclimating to a toxic environment, peace feels dangerous. Chaos feels like home. Your nervous system is addicted to the drama cycle, the tension, the explosion, the relief, the honeymoon. When you step off that roller coaster, the silence is deafening. You will want to get back on. You will want to call them. You will want to apologize for having standards. Do not do it. Sit in the discomfort. That discomfort is the feeling of your spine growing. This process of no longer tolerating is what I call the great unbecoming. You are not becoming a new person. You are becoming the person you are before the word told you to shrink. You are excavating the version of yourself that knew at age 6 that it wasn't fair when your friend took your toy. You are remembering the teenager who swore they would never be in a boring, passionless marriage. You are honoring the young adult who said they would never work for a boss who yelled. The great unbecoming is the slow, painful, glorious process of shedding the skins that were never yours to wear. The skin of the people pleaser. The skin of the martyr, the skin of the strong one, who never needs help. Those skins are heavy, and you are molting. Part 4, the specific arenas of no longer tolerating. Let me make this concrete. Because a tolerance is an abstract word, but our lives are not abstract. In relationships, you no longer tolerate the silent treatment as a form of conflict resolution. You no longer tolerate having to beg for basic respect. You no longer tolerate being the only one who apologizes. You no longer tolerate, I'm just joking, after a mean comment. You no longer tolerate love that requires you to be small. You realize that love is not supposed to hurt. Love is not a battlefield. Love is a home. And you stop accepting tourists who treat your heart like a rest stop. At work, you no longer tolerate urgent emails at 10 p.m. You no longer tolerate being praised for your resilience while being denied a raise. You no longer tolerate the unspoken expectation that you will sacrifice your health, your family, and your sanity for a company that will replace you in a week. You stop accepting the phrase, "Oh, we're like a family here," when what they mean is, we will exploit you like family. You realize that your labor is not a gift, it is a transaction, and you are demanding fair market value. In friendships, you no longer tolerate the one-sided therapist dynamic. You no longer tolerate friends who only call you when they are in crisis. You no longer tolerate the friend who diminishes your joy. Oh, you got a promotion? Must be nice to have all that love. You stop accepting the frenemy, the gossip, the competitive comparison. You realize that friendship is not about the number of years. It's about the quality of the mutual respect. You would rather have 2 friends who see you than 20 who use you with yourself. This is the hardest arena. You no longer tolerate your own inner critic. You stop accepting the narrative that you are not enough. You stop tolerating the procrastination that steals your dreams. You stop tolerating the late night doom scrolling that masquerades as relaxation. You stop making excuses for your own mediocrity. You realize that the voice that says you can't is not the voice of reason. It is the voice of fear. And you stop letting fear drive the car. So you've done it. You've left the job. You've ended the relationship. You've told the friends you need space. You've unfollowed the toxic inner monologue. You've thrown away the shoes. What happens next? At first, there is a void, and the void is terrifying. You will look around and think, who am I without this struggle? Your identity was wrapped up in your tolerance. You were their patient wife, their dedicated employee, their loyal friend. Without that role, you feel naked. You might feel guilty. You might feel like a failure. This is normal. Do not panic. The void is not empty. It is fertile. It is the fallow field before the planting season. Slowly, something miraculous happens. Your energy returns. The constant low-grade hum of anxiety that you didn't even notice anymore because it had been there so long begins to fade. You sleep better. You laugh more easily. You find yourself doing small, kind things for yourself without a reason. You buy flowers for your own kitchen table. You go for a walk without your phone. You sit in silence and realize that silence is not loneliness. It is company. You rediscover your preferences. For years, you were so busy accommodating others that you forgot what you actually liked. What music do you like? What food do you want for dinner? What time do you want to go to bed? These tiny mundane questions become revolutionary. You are no longer a reactor. You are an actor. You have agency. And then the most unexpected gift arrives. Compassion, not for the people who hurt you necessarily, but for your past self. You look back at the version of you who accepted the unacceptable, and you don't feel shame. You feel tenderness. You realize that they were doing the best they could with the tools they had. They were surviving. They were trying to be loved. They were afraid. And instead of hating them, you thank them. You say, I thank you for holding on until I was strong enough to let go. Conclusion, the unbearable lightness of no longer accepting. So why do you no longer tolerate what you once accepted? You no longer tolerate it because you have finally understood that tolerance is not a virtue when it costs you your soul. You no longer tolerate it because the pain of staying has finally exceeded the fear of leaving. You no longer tolerate it because you have met yourself in the dark and you have decided that you are worth fighting for. You no longer tolerate it because you have seen the other side, even just a glimpse of it, and you know that peace is possible. You no longer tolerate it because you are tired of being the frog in the pot and you have remembered that you have legs. You can jump. Let me leave you with this. The world will try to convince you that your new boundaries are walls. They will say you are closed off, cold, or difficult. Oh, do not believe them. Boundaries are not walls. Boundaries are doors. They are doors with locks that only you have the key to. And you get to decide who enters. You get to decide what kind of energy crosses your threshold. That is not selfishness. That is sovereignty. You have spent enough of your life being comfortable with the uncomfortable. You have spent enough of your life rationalizing the irrational. You have spent enough of your life watering dead plants. So here is my challenge to you starting tonight. Look at your life. Look at the one thing, the relationship, the job, the habit, the thought that you have been tolerating for far too long. The thing you know in your deepest gut is the pair of cracked, water-stained shoes. And ask yourself not a can I survive it? Because you already know you can. Ask yourself, but do I want to survive it for one more day? If the answer is no, then you know what to do. It won't be easy. It will be messy. You will second guess yourself. You will feel lonely. But on the other side of that messy, glorious, terrifying leap, there's a version of you that breathes easier, a version that sleeps through the night, a version that looks in the mirror and doesn't flinch, a version that has finally, mercifully run out of tolerance for anything less than a life fully lived. Give yourself permission to be that person. The moment you stop tolerating what you once accepted is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your real life. Thank you.